Let's speak to Michael Russell, the Scottish Government's Constitution Secretary. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So Alex Sharma, the Business Secretary, was with us earlier. 111 powers the Scottish Parliament will be receiving, he says.
Yeah, well, it's not true. I have to say, I heard Alex Sharma. He didn't seem to have a very firm grasp of this. The list of powers that has been issued by the UK government in its press release, and I haven't seen the full document, of course, yet, but the list of powers is dishonest. It's one of the most shocking pieces of dishonesty I've seen from a government.
So if it's not 111, how many is it?
No, well, let me explain what's in it, because in actual fact, what it pretends to say isn't true. It's a mishmash of things that the Scottish Parliament already have, things have already decided we won't have because of the frameworks, and things that could be automatically overridden by the decision of the UK to take a power away. If you look at what we have, I mean, you just have to, I've got the list here, you just have to glance through it. Animal welfare, we actually passed a bill in the Scottish Parliament on that last month. Food standards, well, we set up a food standards body in 2015.
But you're following EU regulations on these issues, so is it fair to say that you actually have the full powers?
Of course, absolutely.
When you're following EU regulations?
Of course. What regulations would you have, for example, in flood risk management, that you don't actually set yourselves and operate yourselves in cooperation with others? I was a minister, in actual fact, for flood risk management 10 years ago when we passed a bill in 2009. These aren't new powers for the Scottish Parliament. That is actually, I'm sorry to call it this, a lie. There are other pieces in it that simply aren't true also. Renewable energy, we've got the largest renewable energy, one of the largest in Europe. So there are other things that they're actually trying to take away by framework, things like chemical regulation. So the list is wrong, the list is a misrepresentation, and nobody should be fooled about it. Well, what is actually happening here is taking away very significant powers that will have an effect on our daily lives, on our food standards, on employment standards,
let me ask you about
on
food
building
standards. On food standards, how would it work if Scotland had different standards to the rest of the UK?
As it works now, because we can set those standards ourselves for our own reasons. So if we wish to, for example, tackle obesity by making sure that there isn't too high sugar content, we can do that. And you know, business has lived with that for the last 20 years and has had no problem with that.
So if a supermarket provided something that you felt was substandard, you could stop them selling it in Scotland, and it would be sold in the rest of the UK?
Of course, and that is absolutely right. If the rest of the UK wishes to sell things which we do not wish to sell, they are entitled to do so. I'm not telling supermarkets in England what they should sell. What we're saying is the Scottish Government has a responsibility for the nation's health. If it decides by a democratic process that it should have food standards that are high, that should, for example, conform with European standards, because the UK, England, will cut those standards, the current Tory government will cut those standards no matter what it says, then of course we have that right now, and we should not lose that right, because that's actually about the health of the nation, just as the environment of the nation can be overridden by these rules. But just as the welfare of farmers producing high quality material can be overridden if the UK gets its way.
Your argument over the last 5 years or so has been that leaving the EU market is bad for trade. So why isn't Scotland having different standards to the rest of the UK not bad for trade?
Because it already exists, and it is a power that is used sensibly and proportionately.
But why is it bad at a European level, but not at a UK internal market level?
Because those are they're high and sensible standards, and we all keep to them. There's nobody in the EU at the present moment, apart from the UK, which has just left, of course, which wanted to lower those standards and lower them dramatically. And that is what we are talking about. And the reason for that is in order to get trade deals which they would not otherwise get. Because, for example, the United States will not give trade deals unless agriculture is involved. And that, the US agriculture will drive down standards. These are facts, Gary, and that's what we're facing.
Well, Alex Sharma said that standards would remain high.
Well, he was not telling you the truth, because that is not what will take place. I mean, I've lived with this for the last 4 years. I'm listening to what they're saying. I'm judging them by 4 years of experience, and I do not believe this. And if you look at that press release today, it is a shocking example of how you wish the UK government wishes to mislead people in Scotland, journalists and the public, in order to get their own way. And we should be all standing very firmly against it.
Just on the Brexit front, of course, we had a call yesterday again from the SNP at Westminster for the transition period to be extended. The UK government says that isn't going to happen. So how is the Scottish Government's preparations for Brexit going?
Well, we've had to reinstitute, as you know, and I think I've told you this some weeks ago, we had to reinstitute the start of preparations for a no-deal Brexit, because even if the UK gets a deal, the deal it is looking for is so poor that it will be essentially the same as a no deal. And we've had to ramp those up again. Now, that takes attention and work away from, having just listened to your previous interview, COVID and the essential work we have to do on that. It is also a shocking waste of money. It is the third time we have had to do this. But unfortunately, that is the nature of the Brexit. But, you know, we will oppose this power grab because it's bad for...
But what does that mean in practice in terms of January?
Again.
Yeah, no, but in terms of January next year, if we have a no deal, as you're suggesting, what will that mean in practice for people in Scotland?
Well, a number of things will happen. I mean, the economy will grow steadily worse, and whereas other places will start to recover, the UK won't, because there will be a Brexit recession, and we published figures on that a month ago. There are still insecurities within the food supply and with supplies of other goods, including medicines, which we remain very worried about. They were never entirely solved by the UK in the two earlier panics about a no deal, and we still don't think, we think actually it's harder to solve them now. This is very foolish to go ahead with this. The right thing to have done was to have a pause in the process, given the nature of COVID. The failure to do so, that we said at the time, is reckless and dangerous, and it remains reckless and dangerous.
Of course, people like you were predicting a Brexit recession once we voted to leave the EU in 2016. That didn't come to pass.
No, I wasn't predicting that. I was predicting a recession when we leave the EU. We're still in the transition period. So what I am predicting will come to pass, because everybody who knows anything is predicting the damage. I would commend to you the paper we published last month, which lays it out in black and white and is very accurate indeed.
Just on the economy, yesterday we spoke to Jim McCall. He's advised the Scottish Government on business. He has suggested that it could take 7 to 10 years to recover from the COVID downturn. And he also said that he felt there was a lack of understanding of business within the Scottish Government. How would you respond to that?
Well, I was actually doing an event yesterday morning with Benny Higgins, who's a very distinguished businessman also, as is Jim. And I did an event with him yesterday, a webinar, which was for a European audience. And he has a very good plan, which the Scottish Government is about to respond to, commissioned by the Scottish Government, to make sure that we can begin to recover. But recovery would be easier. I have to say it's not going to be easy, but it would be easier if we weren't distracted by this enormous waste of money. And now we see the deceit of Brexit. So we should all be working on recovery, but we're going to find it even harder if the Brexit process continues and if we stay in the UK. So that is why independent membership of the EU remains the absolute priority.
Mike Russell, thank you very much for speaking to us, the Scottish Government's Constitution Secretary.
And the time is 24 minutes.